Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into the Sean Diddy Combs trial, specifically these very disturbing claims coming out.
Yeah, we've got this detailed news report, basically takes it day by day. It focuses heavily on Cassie Ventura's testimony and also that first witness, the hotel security guard.
So our mission here, for you listening, is to pull out the most shocking allegations, really understand the different sides, prosecution versus defense, and grasp the key stuff that's happened so far without getting totally lost in all the details.
Exactly. We want to distill it down, make sense of the arguments and the key moments.
Okay, let's dive in. Day one. The report lays out these charges against Combs, and they're serious. Sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, transportation for prostitution, arson, bribery too.
And the potential penalties are, significant. We're talking potentially a very long time in prison.
What jumps out right away is how different the main arguments are.
Totally. Prosecution saying coercion, that he forced people, defense is arguing consent. It's a fundamental clash, really.
Right. And that racketeering charge, how does that fit in exactly?
Well, it's basically about showing a pattern, a pattern of criminal activity linked together through his enterprise, his work. It lets them connect all these different alleged acts under one big charge.
Got it. Okay, so the first witness, LAPD officer Israel Flores, he was working security at the Intercontinental Hotel back then.
Yeah, the place where that hallway video happened. He testified he responded to a call about a woman in distress.
And his description.
It paints a picture. He said he found Combs just in a towel, and Ventura was sort of huddled, hoodie up, looked really scared, and there was a smashed flower vase in the hall.
And this connects directly to that security video we've all seen. Flores described seeing Combs grab Ventura near the elevator. She had her bag, looked like she was leaving, and then physically pull her back towards the room.
Right, and he mentioned her using the wall phone, which is what actually got him involved in the first place.
And a detail may be missed in the video. Flores said he saw Combs in a mirror reflection, throwing that vase, smashing it.
Yeah, and then there's the direct interaction. Flores heard Ventura say, quite clearly apparently, "I want to leave. I just want to leave."
And Combs.
According to Flores, Combs told her, "You're not going to leave." That really hits at the prosecution's point about coercion, her wanting out.
It gets worse, though. Flores testified he took them back to the room while she got her things, noticed another guy just sitting there on the bed, not doing anything.
But the really shocking part, for Flores' testimony anyway, was after she left.
Yeah.
He claims Combs offered him a sack of money, said something like, "Take care of this for me, don't tell anyone."
Wow, a bribe attempt.
Pretty blatant, yeah. Flores said he turned it down. He also mentioned seeing Ventura had a purple eye as she was leaving.
And then after she'd gone, there was another confrontation.
Right. Flores said Combs grabbed another guard's phone, and that's when Flores physically restrained him. He used the word pinned him against the wall in his testimony.
So why no police report back then?
Flores' explanation was that nobody wanted to press charges at the time, which, really speaks to the power dynamics maybe involved.
Okay, so the defense gets to cross-examine him. What was their angle?
Predictably, they went after inconsistencies or things not in his original official report, like the devilish stare he mentioned, the other man in the room, the exact color of her eye. Details like that.
Trying to undermine his memory or credibility.
Exactly. They pointed out he'd also described Combs as calm at points, and that his written report said Combs grabbed his hand and told him to back off, not that he was pinned. It's a standard tactic, create doubt about the details to cast doubt on the whole testimony.
Makes sense. They want the jury to think maybe his memory isn't perfect, or maybe he embellished things.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Paint a less clear-cut, less volatile picture than what he described on the stand. Create that reasonable doubt.
All right, let's move to the opening statements. The defense first.
They didn't shy away from acknowledging some things. They mentioned Combs' unorthodox sexual interests, his temper, his flaws. They even called that hallway video indefensible.
But their core argument,
that this case is about, and I'm quoting loosely here, love, jealousy, and adult choices, not sex trafficking. They painted Ventura as a willing participant, maybe motivated by money, and called the relationship itself toxic and dysfunctional.
So they're not saying nothing bad happened, just that it wasn't criminal in the way the prosecution claims.
Essentially, yes. They're reframing it. Unhealthy? Yes.
Yeah.
Unconventional? Yes. Criminal sex trafficking? No. That willing participant idea is key for them.
Okay, then the prosecution's opening. Very different vibe, I assume.
Oh, absolutely. Stark contrast. They introduced this term freak-offs, alleged forced sexual encounters, often with male escorts, while Combs watched and recorded. And crucially, they claim he used those recordings as blackmail.
Blackmail, wow. What other accusations did they lay out?
It was broad. Kidnapping, arson, drug distribution, various sex crimes, bribery, obstruction of justice. They argued he had an inner circle helping him, that he expected to be treated like a king.
They mentioned others besides Ventura, too.
Yes, they specifically mentioned focusing on Cassie Ventura and a Jane Doe. They detailed some really disturbing things like alleged forced sex with male escorts, that incident involving urination, trying to show a pattern.
And specific incidents of violence.
Yeah, they mentioned an alleged severe beating after Combs found out Ventura was seeing someone else. Claimed he drugged women, forced them into sex acts, often assaulting them first.
What about evidence?
They said they have it. Videos, texts, bills, evidence of damage to hotel rooms. And they tied it all back to that racketeering charge, saying Combs worked with his employees to commit crimes like kidnapping, arson, drug stuff, exploiting people who worked for him. A whole system, allegedly.
So a much wider scope than just one relationship.
That's the point of the racketeering charge, yeah. To show an ongoing criminal enterprise, not just isolated incidents.
Okay, let's shift to day 2. This was heavily focused on Cassie Ventura's testimony. How did it start?
It started with some background. How she met Combs. She was, 19? An aspiring artist signed to his label Bad Boy Records. Only ever put out one album, interestingly.
That dynamic itself sets up a power imbalance from the start, right?
Yeah.
Established industry figure, young artist.
Absolutely, that's crucial context. He held a lot of power over her career, her future, right from the beginning. Makes her potentially more vulnerable to influence or, control.
The report says things shifted after a kiss in Vegas. She was 21 then.
Yeah, she described feeling confused, uncomfortable, the age gap, the professional dynamic. Then meetings at the Trump Hotel. She alleged she introduced her to oral sex, didn't reciprocate, and she felt pressured.
Her feelings of confusion and pressure seem pretty central to the prosecution's case against the idea of pure consent.
Exactly. It highlights how subtle pressure and those power dynamics could have really shaped her choices, or her perception of whether she had a choice.
Then she talked about his personality.
She did. Described a shift. Initially enamored, but then grew wary. Talked about his abusive side, dramatic mood swings, leading to physical violence.
What kind of violence did she describe?
It's graphic. She mentioned him saying things like, "Watch your mouth." Described him hitting her, smashing her head, knocking her over, dragging her, kicking her, even stomping on her head.
How often?
Her words were, "too frequently." Just chilling testimony, directly confronting those physical abuse allegations with specific violent details. Yeah, really disturbing details. Key for the prosecution to establish that alleged pattern of violence she says she endured.
Then she described their first sexual encounter on a boat in Miami.
Right. She testified she'd had wine and also a Blee Dolphin ecstasy pill. Said Combs gave it to her. Felt euphoric, really high.
That raises questions about consent right there with the alleged drugging.
It does. Her capacity to consent fully in that state is a major question. After that, the relationship became intimate but secret. Combs was publicly with Kim Porter, and she was signed to his label.
Did she think she was his only girlfriend?
For a while, yes. But then she realized, and she put it, Sean Combs had many girlfriends. Their whole involvement lasted a little over 10 years.
Yeah.
That secrecy, the substances involved early on, it suggests a dynamic that maybe wasn't straightforward from the start.
And she talked about control.
A lot.
Yeah.
Said it started with her career, but then expanded to every minute of the day. Constant check-ins, giving her busy work on projects that never went anywhere. She felt that was a form of control.
Busy work, how so?
Like keeping her occupied, dependent, maybe isolated. Said his team monitored her, he called constantly, sent people to check up on her. She moved to LA for him because I was in love. He paid her rent, kept a key.
That sounds like intense surveillance, really limiting her freedom.
It's a classic pattern in allegedly abusive relationships. That kind of pervasive control, isolating the person, maintaining dominance.
Okay, day 2 also got into these freak-offs. Can you explain what she described?
Yeah, this is deeply disturbing. She described them as sexual encounters with hired escorts, always directed by Combs. Said it started within the first year they were together.
How did she feel about it?
Initially, very uncomfortable. But she said she complied to please him, felt she had little choice, and was afraid of what would happen if she said no. She mentioned the longest one went on for 4 days.
4 days, wow. Her saying she felt she had little choice directly counters the defense's consent argument for these encounters, right?
Absolutely. That's central to the sex trafficking claims. Her feeling compelled out of fear, directly challenges that idea of willing participation.
And eventually she had to organize them herself.
That's what she testified. It became her job to find and book male escorts, specific looks. From places like Craigslist, Backpage, she'd show them to Combs for approval, pay them cash. He provided amounts like $1,500 to $6,000.
She even had to check if they were cops.
Allegedly, yes. Required to make sure they weren't undercover.
Yeah.
And she handled their travel, calling them new staff members to the travel agent.
That seems complicated. If she was a victim, why would she be involved in organizing it?
Well, that's something the defense might point to. But from the perspective of coercive control, it's actually quite common. Abusers can manipulate victims into participating in the very things harming them. It might increase her entanglement, her fear.
I see. It makes it harder to leave or expose him if you're involved in the logistics.
Exactly. It could erode her sense of agency, make her feel trapped, complicit even.
What were the details of these encounters like?
She described a pattern. Involved oil and touching, oral sex, intercourse, Combs often directing, describing what he wanted. And they were recorded. Early on with video cameras, later on their phones.
Recorded. Did she know?
Yes. She said she deleted the videos from her devices later because she felt humiliated, disgusted. Asked Combs to delete them too, but found out later some still existed.
Were drugs involved during these?
Yes, she mentioned using marijuana, ketamine, mushrooms, sort of as a buffer, a way to cope. Said Combs pushed her to participate even if she was sick or had her period.
She mentioned some specific incidents too.
Very disturbing ones. An incident with an escort urinating on her. She said it was her request, but Combs was involved directing. An experience at the Montage Beverly Hills with a pool filled with baby oil.
Good Lord. The recording aspect adds a whole other layer of control, doesn't it? Fear of release.
A huge layer. The graphic nature, the drugs, the pressure, and then the existence of recordings. It paints a horrifying picture that goes way beyond anything resembling typical consensual activity.
Okay, let's connect this to that 2016 hallway video. How did she explain that?
She testified that incident happened right after she tried to leave a freak off, before Combs considered it over. She said he followed her, grabbed her, threw her down, kicked her, tried to drag her back, took her stuff.
And this was the day of her movie premiere.
Yes, that's why she wanted to leave. She also said she already had a black eye from him hitting her before that. The escort involved was in a different room at the time. She managed to run off while Combs was in the shower, even put her shoes in her bag to be quicker.
When asked how many times he beat her,
She replied, 2 made a count. I don't know.
why didn't she fight back in that hallway incident?
She explained she'd learned early on that fighting back just made the violence worse, escalated it. Said he was a scary person, he would be violent.
So her testimony gives a potential reason for that video, her trying to escape one of these freak-offs.
Exactly. It provides crucial, disturbing context. Her attempt to leave, his alleged violent reaction. It supports the prosecution's narrative of coercion, lack of consent, and being trapped in that cycle of abuse.
What happened right after that hotel incident?
She said she got an Uber home after Officer Flores helped her get her things. Then a flood of texts from Combs. Call me, I got 6 kids, you'll get some around. For my kids' help.
How'd she respond?
Told him to put the robe on. She also sent him selfies showing her injuries, a fat lip, a black eye. A friend called the police, but initially Cassie didn't name Combs.
Did Combs contact her again?
Yeah, he texted something like, call me, the cops are here, you're going to abandon me all alone. She replied telling him she was injured and to stay away.
But she still had her movie premiere that night.
Right, she was worried about it. And then Combs showed up at her apartment, banging, kicking, yelling at the door.
And the premiere photos.
They apparently showed visible injuries. She wore sunglasses to hide the black eye, used makeup to cover bruises.
That whole sequence, his texts showing up at her place, it sounds like relentless pressure even after the violence.
It paints a picture of alleged continued control, manipulation, ignoring her boundaries, even after that incident, and her going to the premiere injured. It speaks volumes about the pressure she might have felt.
Okay, day 3. The testimony got even heavier, if that's possible. She alleged rape.
Yes. This was about a meeting in 2018. She was already seeing her now husband. She agreed to meet Combs for what she thought was a closure conversation. She testified that he raped her in her living room.
Did she elaborate?
She said she was crying, saying no, but that it happened very fast.
Was there any contact after that?
She admitted to one more voluntary sexual encounter later and a few check-ins, sending affectionate messages. Explained it like, We had been together for over 10 years. You don't just turn feelings off that way.
That complexity, it often comes up in testimony about long-term abusive relationships.
It does. The psychological impact is incredibly complicated. The last time they were in the same room before the trial was Kim Porter's funeral in 2018.
Did the alleged threats stop when the relationship ended?
No, she testified they continued. He reportedly demanded money back because her future husband used to be his trainer. Sent messages like, "If I was you, I would get me my money, and you will not be threatening me."
He mentioned iPads.
Yeah, claimed she had too many iPads full of skeletons. Her response in text was, "Do you want me to tell the truth? It's way deeper than iPads." And in court, she said, there was way more than freak-offs. There was abuse. There was many things.
So ongoing intimidation even after they split.
That's the picture she painted. A continued effort to control or silence her, maybe using the threat of exposing damaging information.
She talked about the long-term impact on her.
Very much so. Years to even begin overcoming it. Rehab, getting clean from drugs she'd used to cope, trauma therapy just last year in 2023. Said she suffered flashbacks, suicidal thoughts, even described trying to walk into traffic once.
It just underscores the depth of the trauma alleged.
Absolutely. The devastating, lasting consequences if her account is true.
Did she say she saw him abuse other people too?
Yes. Mentioned him punching someone, dragging his assistant Mia off a balcony when she wouldn't give up her phone, holding another friend over a balcony railing, then throwing her onto furniture, hitting someone with a wooden hanger.
Witnessing that would surely increase her own fear.
Likely, yes. It contributes to the image of him as allegedly violent and controlling, suggesting a broader pattern beyond just her.
What about his staff? Did they see anything?
She claimed some staff members did see him abuse her and told her they quit because of it. She also noted she never saw injuries on him after these incidents, but she'd be bruised, needing days to recover, hiding in hotel rooms.
She described a specific incident in 2015.
Yeah, a really awful one. Said she was beaten badly in one room while he hosted a party right next door. Hid under a toilet, black eyes, golf ball-sized knots on her forehead. Said a security guard cried when he saw her.
And she had to stay at his house.
For almost a week to recover, allegedly. And she testified he told her to put on more makeup so his son wouldn't see her injuries during a FaceTime call.
The alleged concealment, the staff reactions. It's a very disturbing picture of trying to maintain a public image while this was supposedly happening.
Grim details, yeah. Suggesting abuse happening somewhat openly, but with efforts made to hide the evidence.
Then there's the situation involving Kid Cudi.
Right. An email she sent her mom in 2011 mentioned Combs threatening to release explicit sex tapes and hurt both her and Scott Mescudi Kid Cudi. Said Combs specified he wouldn't do it himself, he'd be out of the country.
How did her relationship with Kid Cudi start?
According to her testimony, during a freak-off in 2011, when Combs found out, she said he lunged at her violently with a wine opener.
So she fled.
Yes, to another hotel. Contacted Cudi on her burner phone. Combs allegedly kept threatening them, releasing videos, causing harm, specifically threatening to blow up Cudi's car.
And Cudi's car did explode.
It did. January 2012. An incendiary device. Mescudi's reps confirmed that explosion happened.
Did Combs say anything about it later?
She testified they met afterward, and he denied knowing anything about the car incident.
She also mentioned lying to her mother initially.
Yeah, about an incident where his security chased her. But later she did show her mom bruises on her back, butt, thigh. Claimed it was the first time, didn't mention the freak-offs. Eventually, she ended the relationship with Cudi because of Combs' threats.
The car bombing, that elevates things to another level of alleged danger and intimidation.
Extremely serious. It adds a chilling dimension, suggesting the lengths he would allegedly go to, impacting not just her, but people close to her. The burner phones, the denial, it fits that alleged pattern of manipulation.
She also talked about when she thinks the abuse started, way back.
Yeah, 2007 or 2008. Saw him flirting, then in the car, she said he just abruptly hit her in the head hard enough she fell to the floor. Driver and security were right there.
And another early incident.
At a party. She was drunk, punched him. She says he retaliated by beating her, stomping on her face in his car. Tried to run, security stopped her, brought her back. Face was unrecognizable knots, bleeding, swollen.
And he didn't let her stay at his place.
No, told her to sneak out with security to a hotel to recover. She felt she couldn't leave permanently safety concerns, no resources, knowing what he was capable of, his access to guns, the threats.
There's another incident at a Prince party.
Attacked her in her hotel room, apparently because she went without telling him. Through luggage, verbal abuse. These early stories established that alleged pattern right from the start.
Yeah.
It's showing how the dynamic might have been set early on, reinforcing that alleged coercive control.
She sent him a text comparing him to Ike Turner.
Yes.
Yeah.
You treat me like you, Ike Turner. A very pointed comparison. She testified about him putting her down in front of others, that controlling behavior.
Yeah. And the scar.
From a 2013 incident, she alleged he gashed her face, left a permanent scar on her eyebrow. She showed it to the jury, said friends tried to stop him. She went to a plastic surgeon, not the ER.
Did she confront him about it?
Texted him a photo wanting an apology. His reply, allegedly, "You don't know when to stop. You have pushed it too far." Her response back, "Just say sorry, I don't know why I deserve that you could care less if I was okay."
Wow. That exchange, the lack of remorse, the victim blaming alleged there, it's stark. The scar is tangible evidence, too.
Incredibly powerful moment of the testimony. That comparison and the physical evidence combined with the alleged text exchange.
She also talked more about the fear surrounding those freak-off videos being leaked.
Intense anxiety about it. Said she deleted them from her phone, asked him to, but found out they still existed. Recounted being on a flight from Cannes in 2013.
What happened on the flight?
After an argument where he'd accused her of stealing drugs and kick her off a boat, she saw him on the plane watching those videos on his laptop with other people there.
No, really?
That's her testimony. Said at the Cannes event before that, he was giving her evil glares, painfully squeezing her thighs. On the plane, he allegedly threatened to embarrass me and release them.
So the threats were ongoing.
Recurring, yeah. Especially when he was angry or jealous, like when she dated someone else. Her fear was profound that the videos could ruin everything I worked for, make me look like a slut.
And a video did leak eventually.
In March 2014, she learned a sexually explicit video of her leaked. Her immediate fear was it was a freak-off video. Combs' reaction, she said, was to tell her to investigate it, find out everything about it.
That constant threat of exposure is a brutal form of alleged control. Showing them to others on a plane is just next-level humiliation, if true.
Absolutely. It represents significant alleged coercive power, using potential public shame and professional ruin as a weapon.
Lastly, she detailed the health impacts of the freak-offs.
Yeah, this was significant too. Said she hated participating, often used ketamine specifically because it was dissociative, tried to get out of one on her 29th birthday but gave in.
Physical health issues.
Regular serious ones. Gastrointestinal problems, mouth sores, UTIs that became resistant to antibiotics during these periods. Recovery often involved FOVI fluids, massages, and opiates painkillers.
Opiates.
Yeah, she said they made me feel numb, and admitted it led to an opiate addiction she developed to cope. Described feeling empty and gross afterwards, especially if she wasn't staying with him right after.
So the physical toll was immense, leading to addiction as a way to numb the trauma.
It paints a stark picture of the alleged profound physical and psychological cost, relying on drugs to get through it, developing an addiction. It highlights the desperation of trying to survive such a deeply traumatic situation, according to her testimony.
So wrapping up our deep dive on these first few days, it's incredibly disturbing. The narrative from the prosecution, especially through Cassie Ventura's testimony, is just filled with these severe allegations, extreme violence, control, sexual coercion.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's crucial we keep reminding ourselves, and you listening, that the defense presents a very different story. They acknowledge a toxic relationship, Combs' flaws, sure, but they frame it as consensual, maybe driven by financial motives on her part. Two fundamentally opposing narratives.
Right. Which leaves you, the listener, with a lot to think about. Considering everything we've heard, the power dynamics at play, the complex questions around consent, the devastating long-term impact described in the testimony, what does this case really suggest about accountability, especially in powerful industries like entertainment? And what does it say about how society grapples with allegations like these? Definitely a troubling case and a lot to process.